We Americans consider fighting a war as something we do somewhere else, across the sea, far away in some other country. But Israelis have never had that luxury. Their battlefields have been in their yards, around their homes, in the streets of Jerusalem. In her book, My Life, Golda Meir writes that by the end of May 1967, ordinary life, as they had experienced it for such a short time, had ended. Like every other Israeli, Golda packed an overnight bag with a few essentials that might be needed in the shelter, and it was left in a place where she could quickly grab it as soon as the sirens started to wail and the clock ticked on and everyone waited. However, unlike most Israeli citizens, Golda knew about the grim, secret preparations that had been made. City parks had been consecrated for possible use as mass cemeteries. Hundreds of caskets were constructed. Hotels were emptied of guests in order to be turned into huge emergency first aid stations, and the iron rations had all been stockpiled in case the population had to be fed from some central source. And bandages and drugs and stretchers were all obtained and distributed. But above all, the country had to prepare itself militarily. By now, Israel realized that she was entirely on her own. The Jewish population didn't have any illusions. They knew there was no alternative. They just had to win this war that was being thrust upon them again. Golda never forgot the miraculous sense of unity and purpose that arose and transformed 2.5 million very independent, separate Jews. Now each and every one of them felt personally responsible for the survival of the state of Israel, and each and every one of them knew that the enemy they faced was committed to their annihilation. In this video, we too will see that the fight is here at home. For us, it may be here, it may be here, it may be around here. I am Jim Taylor, and welcome to In Favor Resources and to the 8th video in this series, We Are an Army in Indiana. Based on a prophecy by Chuck Pierce, we're drawing points of comparison for enemies, or for armies in history and armies in Israel and armies in Indiana and in America, because what's true of those armies are also true of our army here. So you want to take your handout, and by the way, if you've been following these in real time and you haven't been able to find the handouts on the website, that was because my mistake. I did not post them, but they're on there now. And so find the one for the 8th video. It's declaration number 7 in Indiana. We are on a battlefield. Now, we obey our commander, we wear protective armor, we carry deadly weapons, we are trained and ready, we know who the enemy is, and we're engaged in a fight on a battlefield. Now, our battlefield is not only a physical one, it is also, and perhaps mostly, a spiritual one. It is both within and without. So we look around ourselves and we look within ourselves to see where the battle is to be joined. Here's some scripture that supports this. First one from Paul, Romans 7. These are on your handout. For in my inner being, in here, I delight in God's law, but I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind. There's a war happening, a battle inside me. That's the battlefield. John says, for everything in the world, and then notice what he lists, the things that are in the world. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Those are all, those worldly things, they're all things that are inside us. Paul again, Colossians 3, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature. And then he has a whole list of things that all come from within. James said it this way, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Now we're talking about quarrels between people. These are outside of people. Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? Those are the things that are inside people. The battle is in both places. David, this is an Old Testament principle too. David said, how long must I wrestle with my thoughts? Psalm 13. and day after day have sorrow in my heart. And how long will my enemy triumph over me? You see, in Indiana, we are meeting the enemy head on, and we are winning on the battlefields of the world and of our flesh. General Jim Mattis, someone who knows warfare, said it this way: the most important 6 inches on the battlefield is between your ears. Joyce Meyer, in her inimitable way, made it even more simple. She said, the mind is the battlefield. The old songwriter said it like this: I am on the battlefield for my Lord, and I promised him that I would serve him till I die. I am on the battlefield with my Lord. O Christian, gird the armor on and hasten to the field. Against the powers of darkness go, determined not to yield. Clad in a full salvation, the Spirit's sword in hand, from victory unto victory go. It is the Lord's command. I want to give you some questions there for the bottom part of your handout where it says, we are an army in Indiana. We save that space for some thoughts and implications and applications. So consider these. What are the most intense battles in your mind, your body, your spirit? What areas have you suffered the most opposition? Where are you the most vulnerable? And then, where have you been the strongest and experienced the greatest victories? Well, what troubles, what hurts, what problems have these private battles caused in your public life? The things that happen in here and the trouble they bring out here. But what doors of opportunity have opened to you because of your victories? So what are the areas where you feel most qualified to help others who are struggling in those areas? And what will you do today to help some of your fellow Hoosier soldiers? Let me close with a quote from Henry Ward Beecher. The world's battlefields have been in the heart, chiefly. More heroism has been displayed in the household and the closet than on the most memorable battlefields of history. Next video, in Indiana, we raise our banner high. Hope to see you then.